Okay, so I will now be passing the floor over to Dr. Jeremy Javers, VP of Technology for Houdek. Thank you so much for being here today, Jeremy, and I'll now pass the floor over to you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day and a productive week. My name is Jeremy Javers. I'm the Vice President of Technology for Houdek. Today, I'd like to talk to you and hope you get to understand some of the benefits that fermentation can bring to your protein ingredients in your diet. I look forward to your questions at the end of the talk. But first, I'd like to show you a short video about what we do at Houdek.
Scene one, take one. And take one.
Right now in the world, the population is increasing at a very dramatic rate, but we do not have enough land to produce enough food, and we have to do it in a sustainable way. Houdek's strategy to use fermented plant protein knits very well into this idea because we don't need that much space now. So we are producing more and nutritious from the same land.
Soybean meal as its own ingredient is a fairly important ingredient in the aquaculture industry, but it has its limitations. Through fermentation, the anti-nutritional factors that are found in conventional soybean meal are removed.
I think it's very exciting to be able to use the power of precision fermentation to continue to bring more precision to our products for different applications. As we develop new technologies, continuing to add value to all the people that are part of the whole circle of this as well, whether it be the people producing the crops in the field, to the people running the processes in the plant, to the people on the ultimate consuming end of the different products that we make.
Plant-based fermentation is beneficial because it can help break down things in the plant material that isn't digestible for different types of animals.
So moving to fermented plant protein, we decrease the carbon footprint, making our environment better, and it's a more sustainable approach to feed the future. Soybean and other crops, they have a lot of protein content, but it might not be readily available for the animals or even humans to directly eat. When you extract the oil out of these oil crops, it's all the protein and fibers. So to enrich the protein levels in the final product, we use something called fermentation, which is the use of microorganisms to enrich or increase the levels of protein and make it readily available in the final product. So that is essentially the fermentation, and fermented plant protein is to be able to use microorganisms, living things, to increase the value of our final product.
I think that Houdek has the potential to create a more nutritious product than what's commercially available otherwise. I think that creates sustainability because you don't need as much of it then to get the same nutrient content. Better food, more food, and easier on the environment.
So with these kind of ideas coming in, I feel like in 50 years from now, we would have a very sustainable way of producing different things, especially food, feed.
I hope that the work I'm doing helps my son in the future,
Energy utilization would be more sustainable.
that he won't have to worry
Will reduce our dependence on the fossil fuels
about protein nutrition,
and be using more renewable sources of energy like solar energy.
that the work we're doing here will have created a platform for not just soybean meal, but other feedstocks as well.
So definitely more sustainable.
I'd like to thank Aquaculture North America, as well as all the attendees, for giving the time and the opportunity to share our story today. This slide is not the result of some existential crisis or anything, but wanted to give everybody a little bit of an idea of my background that forms some of the perspectives I share with you today. One thing that's not included in the slide is that I grew up on a farm right outside of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where we raised corn and soybeans and hay. We also raised animals like pigs and cattle. And I can remember growing up on the farm and playing in piles of soybeans and corn, and seeing how we use them on the farm. And our definition of processing corn and soybeans back then was put it into the feed wagon, grind it up, mix it with a couple of bags of stuff from the local feed mill and feed it to the animals. And I can remember wondering, man, what the heck happens to all the rest of this corn and soybeans that we make that we haul into the elevator? And throughout my career, I've been fortunate to see that processing change and evolve and bring more value and optimization and efficiency to agriculture as a whole. Some of the experiences that I had, I was exposed to precision fermentation applied to agriculture very early in my career. We started by taking corn-based products and turning them into plastics. Over the commercial part of my career, I was exposed to research and development, everything from concept to bench scale to pilot scale to development and demonstration, and finally to commercial operations, and then involved with everything in commercial operations all the way through a feed mill into a final product. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great teams, especially the one here currently at Houdek. I hope the video gave you all a good perspective about the culture and the passion that this team brings every day to work to bring more value to aquaculture and to these feed ingredients. Our work as a whole is to really bring that every day and deliver on the value of our technology all the way through to the ultimate consumer on these aquaculture farms. And as you saw in the video, our capabilities range everything from research and development to demonstration, production, and then we have our own fish farm on site where we can test our products, which is the ultimate test of the value that we bring to the market. So, Houdek, what does it mean? Previously, we were called Prairie Aquatech. We sell primarily a product called Pro into the aquaculture market. More recently, we've developed products that go into pet food lines. The name of that product is called Protégère. It was recently launched. We're also working on ingredients that go into human food. So Prairie Aquatech didn't fully envelop the definition of what we do as a company anymore. So we decided to change our name. Houdek is actually the name of the state soil of South Dakota. Not every state is lucky enough to have their own state soil, but we are. So it was fitting that everything that we do comes from the soil. So our current name is Houdek. What do we do here at Houdek? So we take the outputs of agriculture and the forms primarily of plant-based meals, soybean meal, distillers grains, things of that nature. And we apply chemistry, engineering, and the thing that makes us uniquely different from other ingredients on the market is that we apply fermentation to bring some of the value and the benefits that those other processes don't. And as the output of the process, we make enriched protein ingredient meals that bring along the benefits of fermentation that we're going to discuss here shortly. And we also make other products in the form of other animal feed co-products that come out of our process, as well as the ability to make additional precision fermentation ingredients that would replace things like yeast extract, tryptone, peptone at a fraction of the cost, which we believe ultimately will allow us to bring this tool of precision fermentation more broadly to agriculture and ultimately more value back to agriculture in those local communities. So what makes us uniquely different in what we do is we apply fermentation to get the benefits. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what's different in the fermentation process versus traditional processes. We'll talk a little bit about just some varying types of fermented plant proteins that are on the market today. We'll talk about what are the impacts and some of the value and benefits that fermentation brings to these feed ingredients. And finally, what does that all mean for the bottom line, which I would assume is why most people are on the line today, is really to understand how do we drive rule number one of business, and that's how do we drive more money to the bottom line through all of this. So we talk about processes that are primarily driven by engineering and chemistry. Now we can talk about current products like soy protein concentrates and protein isolates. These are great processes. They can concentrate the protein, but through that process of concentrating protein, it's a non-specific chemical process. So it can also do things like extract away some of the good things that come in with the feedstock. These products are widely available. They're well known. They've been used in diets for a long time, but now we can bring the value of more specificity through enzymatic reactions in biology with precision fermentation to this process, and not only add concentration of protein, but also bring some of the benefits of things like biotics into the animal feed along with the protein ingredient. So we talk about a couple of different types of fermentation processes. So when people think about fermentation, they might think about brewing beer or making yogurt, or larger industrial scale fermentation today is making fuel ethanol. DDGs is another type of a fermented plant protein. However, the fermentation at ethanol plants is not specifically controlled to maximize the benefit to the feed product. The fermentation in an ethanol plant is specifically controlled to maximize the output and the conversion of starch and corn to ethanol, thereby concentrating up the protein as well in that process. And yeast fermentation definitely brings some value to the animal feed ingredients. The difference between what an ethanol plant does and what the Houdek fermentation process does is our fermentation is different, and it's very precisely controlled to make the primary product, which is the animal feed ingredient, and bring the maximum value that we can bring to that protein feed ingredient while concentrating it and bringing other benefits such as biotic effects that have implications to the bottom line and better utilize the protein that comes from agriculture. Biotics is something that we've talked about so far, and I think it's important to know that biotics have been around forever. Ever since an animal ate a piece of food that has bacteria on it, it's been around. The difference between then and now is that we understand it better. With a better understanding of these biotics, we can fully take control of them. And precision fermentation is a fantastic tool to be able to do that and really maximize the use of this through the food chain. Prebiotics is something that was probably first coined and really started to be fully investigated in the 90s. Postbiotics is probably 5 or 6 years old. And when we look at those things combined together, when we're very intentional about how we apply fermentation technology to these plant proteins, we get a multiplicative effect that is currently termed symbiotics. So when we look at Houdek's fermentation process, brings 3 main benefits to animal feed. So number one, just like the protein concentrate and protein isolate process, we're concentrating that protein up. Examples in soybean meal, we're taking it from a 50% protein to a 75+% protein meal. This gives nutritionists better ability to bring this into feed formulations in more economical fashion. The second thing that we do is we bring additional benefits to that plant protein. So as we discussed, the first thing is prebiotics. So there are prebiotic type components that come in with the meal that we can serve through our process and transform into something that's more beneficial for the animal. There are prebiotic components that come from the organism itself that we can bring along with the finished feed ingredient and ultimately to the fully mixed ration for the animal. And finally, those prebiotics are feeding the good bacteria in the gut of these animals and helping the animal be more efficient in converting feed into meat and ultimately giving that animal a better life cycle. Finally, the third thing that we bring with this fermentation technology is the postbiotic effect. Postbiotics are a little different than prebiotics in that they don't have a beneficial impact on the animal by enhancing the gut microbes. They bring a direct impact to the animal. It can be through better immune response, or if we look at the picture on the left here, these are histology slides coming out of our fish farm where we do our testing, and we look at inflammation in the gut as one of the key indicators of the benefits that these postbiotics can bring to the feed ingredients. So there's a problem in the world today in that, and it's been getting better, but we formulate diets based on least cost formulation. Least cost formulation does not always equal most efficient utilization of nutrients. As the world population grows and the demand on these things like protein grows, least cost formulation and most efficient formulation are going to intersect. And this technology of precision fermentation applied to plant proteins is going to be one of the enablers that allows us to get to that point more effectively. One example of this is, we increased the digestibility of a feed by 14% by the use of our fermented plant protein. If you look at this globally and apply it to soybeans, that's over 10 million tons less waste going out when you use that material to feed an animal versus not using the fermentation technology. This can have a huge impact on better using the resources that we get out of agriculture and converting it into meat. So how do we use all this in aqua feed? Well, again, rule number one of business is we got to make money. So when we look at the benefits that we bring by protein concentration, prebiotics, postbiotics, the symbiotic effect on these animal feed ingredients, we can get things like better survivability in shrimp farms. We grow shrimp in our test facility as well. Better immune capabilities against things like Vibrio. We get improved digestibility, as was demonstrated in the previous slide, which leads to less waste that the facility has to deal with. That also costs money. So overall, this will lead to improved profitability for the facility and more efficient utilization of the resources that we have. So to wrap up, basically applying the Houdek process to make the fermented plant proteins brings benefits to this ingredient beyond just protein concentration. It also brings other impacts that benefit the health and the productivity of that final animal. This is going to be an important tool to help maximize what we can produce off of each acre of agricultural land moving forward and be more sustainable. I appreciate your time today and look forward to any questions. We'll take an interactive effort all the way through to the final users of the feed to make this efficient utilization of protein reality. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Javers. And with that, let's take some questions from the audience. The first one that I'm seeing here is, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in commercializing this type of product?
Some of the challenges are in the production process through the processing of this. It's a relatively new tool that hasn't been rolled out on a global basis across agriculture through precision fermentation. This is a different type of a process that takes a lot of attention to detail in order to realize these benefits. So there's a lot of leadership challenges that go along with this, and training staff and identifying the right people to come in and teach them how to execute and adding value to those people along the way. That's probably one of the key challenges with bringing any new process to market, is really teaching the people. Ultimately, that's what we're doing, is we're adding value to the people that we're putting the tools in the hands of.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Another one here. How does fermented food with microorganisms impact the water of the RAS facility?
So, there's a number of things that can happen here. So, we don't have per se live organisms in our feed. We don't have the probiotics, but through the process, and we talk about water quality, one thing that comes to mind is phosphorus discharge. So through our process, we try to be one of the things we try to very specifically do is remove non-digestible phosphorus from the process so that it doesn't become a wastewater treatment problem at the fishery. And then just overall conversion capability leads to less waste that you have to deal with in the process as well. I think those are some of the unique benefits that applying fermentation to plant proteins can bring to the market.
Beautiful. Thank you. What are the benefits to this person's bottom line if they were to convert from Ziegler shrimp feed to that of Houdek?
So I am a microbiologist and I run the technology department. I would probably defer you to Brandon White and Sergio. They have all the data on that, and if see my email down there, I'd be happy to put you in touch with them so they can answer those questions more specifically for you.
Beautiful, thank you. Do you have reports on how your product reacts to RAS technology?
Again, yes, so the current production facility that we have puts out about 30,000 tons of finished product per year. That's been going all over the world into different types of fish production, RAS included. So again, Sergio and Brandon could answer those questions, I think, very specifically. And this product has been applied in all sorts of different types of fisheries. And we've gotten, positive results based on the type of fisheries that they're applied in. And I think that's a fantastic question. And this is why it's so important to maintain that communication back and forth between the end customer and ultimately the producer, so that we can continue to utilize these levers and triggers that we have in processing this material to maximize the benefits to the final producer.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Does fermentation apply to raw materials beyond pulses?
Excuse me, beyond what?
Sorry, the question is, does fermentation apply to raw materials beyond pulses?
Not sure if I understand what pulses is. If we talk about feedstocks that we're using, we're able to use things like soy, canola, we use distillers grains type of products in our fermentation process. So, plant-based proteins are the primary target of what we're doing in our focus.
Okay, perfect. Have another question that sort of plays into that. Is Houdek 100% plant protein, or is there some fish meal / animal protein? Is there any difference to its application to fresh or saltwater fish?
Absolutely. There's differences in applications to different species of fish. Again, that's probably a whole webinar on its own. But there are no other animal-based ingredients in Houdek's ME Pro. It is 100% plant-based protein and the fermentation process and the microorganism that comes along with that.
Perfect.
The
Okay.
dank microorganism.
And does that have an impact on water quality?
Does what have an impact on water quality?
That's what I was wondering. That was just one of the questions submitted here. We'll move on to another one.
So, yes, I'll just refer to my prior answer. Impacts on water quality. If we look at things like the inorganic nutrients that we have to deal with, like phosphates and things like that, we try to be very cognizant. We have very specific parts of the process that deal with that in order to confer that benefit all the way through the final user. That coupled with increased digestibility in the total mixed ration would lead to less waste to deal with.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Another one here, kind of specific. Can we use this for rainbow trout feed? How is the growth rate every month?
We have a lot of tanks of rainbow trout at our facility. So I believe we have quite a bit of information on that. Again, for specific feedback on the actual performance in the fish, I would point you to Brandon. I believe we also have publications out there that we could point you to as well. Again, feel free to email me and I will work on getting you as much specific information as I can.
Perfect. Okay, well, I think that unless anyone has a last minute question they want to submit, I'll give you a couple seconds here, but that is all the questions that I am seeing.
I appreciate everybody's time today.
Appreciate your time, Jeremy. Looks like that's it, so I'll wrap things up here. Sorry, one question just came through. Do you have organic products? I feel like the answer is yes.
We definitely have non-GMO products. I believe that we're working on some butterfly certifications as well, the non-GMO product. But again, I can get you specific answers through our production and quality personnel on that.
Absolutely. Perfect.
But yes, we process both non-GMO and we can process GMO soybean meals in our process. Our organism is non-GMO that we utilize in the process. So while I use the term precision fermentation, you may hear a lot of people talk about precision fermentation as only using GMO organisms. The organism we currently use is not GMO. We use the control mechanisms around fermentation to be very precise in how we apply that to these plant-based meals.
Perfect. Okay. Questions here. Okay. Someone just asked if you could put your email into the chat whenever you get a sec there, if you don't mind. So on my end, I just wanted to extend a special thank you to Zachary and Standard BioTools, as well as Jeremy and Houdek. I really appreciate the two of you taking time out of your day to present for all of us. Thank you to those that asked questions and attended. I will see you all at the same time tomorrow for tomorrow's presentation. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone has a great day.